We've come down to The Crown, episodes 9 and 10. Right here, stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
It's coming down, it's boiling down.
We're here.
We are here.
Two.
Round 9, round 10. The fight is almost over, at least for season 2 of The Crown. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here with us in whatever gender you associate with. We enjoy you watching and teaching us as much as learning.
Definitely.
Right here on The Crown After Show. I am Tehran, literally at I am Tehran, all across the board. And of course, accompanied by the one and only.
Yes, I'm Tsahai. You can find me at Say Hi Tsahai. This time I will not be coughing because I feel better.
Oh, good. And of course, make sure to say hi to both of us, not just her.
We also have to acknowledge that we're missing two.
We are missing two. We're missing Alina and Kia.
Yes.
And unfortunately, they could not be here with us today, but they are with us
in spirit.
In spirit.
Yes.
In spirit. And it's the spirit of the episodes that we want to talk about, because episode 9, Paterfamilias, and episode 10, Mystery Men, had a lot of spirit, a lot of heart, and a lot of heartbreak. Starting with episode 9, Paterfamilias, we see Elizabeth the mother for the very first time.
Yes.
Not only because it's the first time we've seen her be a mother, but I mean, we see her motherness come out to the fullest.
Yeah, I mean, we see Charles being bullied at school and she's concerned. And I was really surprised at this reaction. But this episode got me. I was all in my feelings this entire episode.
I very much was. I won't.
What?
Look, I can't lie. There were parts. Look, there are certain scenes.
I cried.
In life. The Will Smith scene, the Fresh Prince scene where he's like, why doesn't he want me, man?
Yeah.
That I don't care. That gets me. I don't even have a heart. So this was one of those. It wasn't to that degree at all. Let's say that.
You're still hardcore.
I'm still, going back to Compton later to pick up video cameras.
Shut
but
up.
The concept is, we learned a lot about Philip. We learned a lot about Charles. We had some foreshadowing of how Charles interacts with Diana. I mean, there's just a lot that goes on.
Yeah, because, Margaret, I used to think that Philip was like the nurturing parent, but I guess that dynamic changed as Charles grew older and Philip wanted him to be tougher. And
that's interesting. Why would you think that changed? Like, did you feel like Philip's relationship and interaction with Charles, because we saw the scene where he is basically yelling at him?
Yeah, no, but in the beginning, like in the earlier episodes, Philip was always like the one playing with the kids and hugging them and showing them love and affection. And Margaret was a bit more standoffish. Here she was more vocal about what she wanted for her children and showed more concern, whereas Philip was the one giving Charles the tough love. But to see kids in pain, it just hurt my heart.
There's a difference between tough love and no love. And that's what Elizabeth, I felt, was showing before, is just a lack of love, or there was a wall.
Right.
But Philip, I don't think that the tough love is necessarily not love. Like, it's
I don't
not
think
an
he
absent,
doesn't
or
love
it's not tough and mean. It's something. And do you have brothers?
Yeah, I do.
And this is an interaction I feel like fathers have with their sons, especially when they want to build them into what we as society have traditionally seen as a man, this tough, strong man. And that's all Philip wanted, to mold him in the way he was molded.
Well, that's the funny thing. I grew up with a single mom. So to see this interaction between Elizabeth and Charles, it reminded me of how moms kind of sometimes baby their sons because they're their kids, and the mothers and their sons, there's a bond there that sometimes they're tougher on the daughters than they are with their
because
sons.
They reflect. Every parent reflects themselves. See, the concept I think in this is not just the concept of Charles may one day be king, as we see in the news today where it's possible. We also see its legacy. Children are our immortality. It is the way we continue to exist. So every parent reflects in their own child and sees their own strengths and their own weaknesses and project their own failures.
And sometimes they want their kids to be a little replica, but Philip failed to understand Charles didn't have the same harsh life that he did, harsh childhood. So his experiences were different. Therefore, Charles didn't have a whole family that died in a plane crash. He didn't have a crazy mom. He had a more stable, nurturing life. So he didn't immediately have to grow up as quickly as Philip did.
As Philip says, this is not the real world.
True, definitely. But
and what he wants is a Charles who is a strong man. And then Charles, up till now, has been a little bit of a wimp. he's wimpy. He doesn't like. He's not as strong. He's not as.
He's not physically strong, but I think he was a smart kid. You know, he was able to write to his uncle very clearly and express himself, and he did have opinions.
He's also like 14, and like, of course he can write. He's not. I mean, he's younger than that, but he's still old enough to write.
Yeah.
And I just understand what Charles was going through, but I understand even more what Philip was going through.
But what is a kid supposed to do? Like, you're not naturally athletic. You're kind of more of a nerd. Like, you know those kids who play video games all day but really can't play basketball? It's like that. So what are you supposed to do? Suddenly force yourself to be athletic?
What are you supposed to do when you are an NBA player and your son does that? That's the tough. That's where it comes down to, and it comes to. So we start off the episode with Elizabeth basically having a parent-teacher conference with the headmaster and getting advice on what.
Not advice. He was like really urging her to.
I'm gonna call her advice.
It was like, listen, take heed. Like, I really think.
In the nicest way possible that he could, but it was so. She even
tried to give him a cookie to soften the blow, and it was not working out.
He's got difficulties. He's not. He's different. He was like, oh, your son. If we can call him son, he's.
It was hard to watch that scene. It made me uncomfortable seeing that, because also as a parent, you don't want to hear negative things going on about your children. But also, I was like, how aware are they about what's actually going on in school? It's like, and it reminded me of bullying today. You know, Charles was being bullied. Were people turning a blind eye to this, or were people listening?
Well, of course, bullying in nature is something we pay a lot of attention to now, but it's been something that's going on, and at some point there is a dichotomy of, is it bullying or is it rite of passage?
Right.
And that's the thing. We as a society, it's sometimes we're too overly concerned, and then other times we're not concerned enough.
Exactly.
And
especially when kids are involved, because sometimes people are like, oh, you're just a kid, you don't know. But I feel like you should always listen to what children tell you. Because
especially with what's going on now in light of all the suicides.
Exactly. You like listen to what my mom was always very vocal with me about her experiences, good and bad. And she never held anything back, you know, and that made me very aware as I grew up. And I think a lot of parents fail to do that. Had Philip said to Charles, listen, this sooner on, before they got on the flight, talk to him about his family, his past, and why he was the way he was, I think Charles would have had a better frame of reference, because he was an intelligent kid. You know, he was also polite and sweet and loving, and those are attributes you want in a man.
True, but at the same time, you're coming from a different age where even saying I love you to your child is something we do all the time now, or pay attention and this and that. And there was time, like growing up, I had a father of my own. He was working. We saw him twice a year. Like, that's the way love worked. Like, you just knew dad. You know how dad loves you. Oh, you turn on the light, right? Like, it worked, right? Like, it was a concept of it's a different time, a different age, and we now understand parenting a little different. And tough love is something that we don't see as much, but we also see participation trophies, and a lot of people don't agree with that as well. And that's something that Philip would have probably been very much against. And the concept is that Charles is advised to change schools to Eton, which is closer, more suitable for him.
And I thought it was happening. I saw him get the wardrobe. Charles was very excited about these ensembles because Uncle Dickie was helping him out. You know, he was happy, and I like seeing him happy. But then that didn't pan out. I thought I was like, oh, when Philip got involved, Philip really put his foot down.
He put it down. It was a done deal.
To the point where Elizabeth was scared. She looked frightened by him.
I wouldn't use the word frightened. Allegedly, let's throw out allegedly terms. I will say that Charles was very excited to go to Eton because it was close, and Elizabeth made a deal of how he could just come home at night and sleep in his own bed. It was going to be very comfortable. And Philip wanted a very similar upbringing to his own. And it started flashing back and forth. But Philip did put his foot down twice. In the beginning, says no. And then the second time says, no, this was our deal. Break this and it's over.
I mean, so you think
he meant it.
Philip would have really left that?
Yes. That would have been the last straw.
Really?
Especially because Elizabeth said, he's the crown, he's the king,
right?
He's different. Maybe the other children. And Philip definitely heard those words, and that's what set him off. The last straw.
So had she framed it in a different way, if she said, okay, he's in danger, and not referenced it being about the crown, you think Philip would have had a different response?
If she had said, we had him tested and he's on the spectrum, that would have been a little different than, he's the king and I know what's best for the crown, and I'm his mother and I'm the queen.
Right.
She didn't say I'm just his mother. She said I'm the queen first.
Right.
And I'm also his mother.
Yeah. Philip doesn't like when she uses.
Does not like that, and crown. This was part of the deal.
Yeah.
Clearly, this was something.
But I was like, goodness. So he would leave his marriage just because he didn't have a say in where his son would go to school. I mean, like, yeah, she wouldn't leave after knowing that he had cheated on her.
Allegedly cheated. We do not know and do not have proof of that. Deny till you die, fellas. Here's the thing: Philip went to Gordonston and wanted his son to go to Gordonston.
And I get it.
And that's a real thing. And I understand that. Legacy. And we have a lot of legacy, especially when it comes to royals and it comes to aristocrats and it comes to the oligarchy.
And tradition.
Exactly. We have people who's like, oh, my father is an alumni. Even in not the upper class, even in just middle class, we like, well, my father was in this fraternity.
Definitely.
And I'm in this fraternity and my son will be in this fraternity. We name our children after ourselves.
Right.
There's a lot. I'm naming all my kids Tehran. I'll tell you that. So I understand that need.
Yeah.
I understand it, and I understand how Gordonston is a school that could build character.
But also, Philip was sent there for different reasons. Yeah, the mom was in the hospital, the father wasn't involved, and you had the Nazi relatives. So there was a need to send him somewhere where he could grow in a safe, healthy environment.
Which was interesting on its own.
Yeah, and plus the school was different at that time. Even Philip said when he attended for that competition that they've let locals in. So the nature of the school has changed with the times as well. So I think Philip's needs and Charles's needs were different in attending.
I can understand as a father, you only know what's best as far as you see it. We often forget that parents are human, and Philip is just a human and sees that he's got this kid who needs a backbone, and he's trying to provide a backbone the best way he knows how. And for him, the backbone came from Gordonston, and that's what he wants from his own kid. And while he's sent to Gordonston because of the headmaster, Dr. Hahn, who's Jewish and can no longer teach in Germany, which is interesting because that's, Philip's in this family where his sisters are married to Nazis and they're a prominent Nazi family. Yeah, he wants his kid to get taught by the best. His dad wanted Philip to be taught by the best, and so he wanted the same thing for his kid.
But yeah, and Dr. Hahn becomes a father figure to Philip.
He
and
does.
I think Philip...
And tough love.
Yeah, although he said to Charles, listen, I was reluctant to come here in the beginning as well, he didn't forget how difficult... He didn't remember how difficult it was for him in the beginning. I think he just kept on reflecting on how much it helped him.
Well, he only sees that, he remembers the outcome, and we all do that. When we look at the past, it always looks brighter, and the future always looks bleak. Mm-hmm. So we see Philip going back, and we see a glimpse inside Philip's psyche that we had never seen before. Yeah. Like up front, we've heard it, we've talked about it, but it's never been so in your face.
We've seen all the details.
We see the family, him being basically, he's in this Nazi family, and then they send him away to school, and he's with his favorite sister, who he feels this affinity, and mother, she's like his mother and his best friend.
But yeah, he feels like he should protect her, because that scene on the plane when she was scared and he was holding her hand and just saying it's just air.
That's actually how a lot of boys feel towards their mother. If you notice, boys are very protective. You can be like, my dad's this, my dad's that, but call my mom a hoe and we're fighting.
Right.
So I understand that is his family.
Yeah.
That is his family. And she loves him so much, she's willing to get on a flight, even though she wears black because she's so scared of flying.
Yeah.
She gets on the flight and goes with him and takes him to the school so he doesn't feel abandoned, because he's felt abandoned by so many people in his life.
Right, and then which starts the tradition of them flying to the school, because Philip therefore does the same thing with Charles when he brings him to the school.
And the book ends like that, and it's very interesting. And especially if you're wondering why the flights are so bumpy, it's because at that time the aircrafts were not able to fly above the clouds. And so what we do now is just we go in a higher atmosphere where there's a lot less air, and it's easier. We're at 30-some thousand feet and we're flying over. They used to fly through clouds, which is actually very tumultuous, and it's very dangerous. Even now, if clouds rise above or planes have to go lower, that's when you have these accidents with planes.
And isn't it interesting that although his sister died in this plane crash, and
oh yes,
you know that
I know where you're going with it.
That
yes.
Philip learned how to fly.
Philip learned how to fly and has no problem flying. Like, your sister died. Like, I thought that was actually very crazy.
Yeah,
like,
when he was screaming at Charles in the cockpit.
Why are you? It's just air.
I was just like, wait a minute. Philip is actually flying the plane, and I was like, where did he learn how to fly? And I was like, oh, maybe when he was in the military.
He was in the Navy.
In the Navy, but I was like, when did this happen? But also, again, it shows you how he pushes through things. He doesn't
a very strong-willed person.
He doesn't become a victim of things.
And with Philip, we saw that with the rite of passage he took from the beginning.
Yeah.
They were picking on him, and he just stayed.
It started
he never
from
cried.
the shower.
The shower.
All of them ran into that shower and
exactly.
did a quick dash in and out, no soap, no washcloth, no nothing. Philip was like, I'm going to stand here.
And he stood there freezing in freezing cold water and stood there and looked at them until they walked away, and then he got out the shower. But he wanted to show them, I have the strongest will of anyone here. And he felt it because that's something that a lot of classes, when upper class, it's a feeling of privilege or betterness.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm better than you.
But I've never been in situations with a bunch of guys like that. So can you speak to, like, men? Do men have to do things like that to show I'm the leader of this path?
Yes, it happens all the time. In fact, I'll give you examples on basketball court.
Right.
There are times where I have gotten to a physical fight, a fist fight with someone, and it's not even because I'm so upset at them. It's because I have to punch this guy so that everyone else understands that this is what happens. It's an alpha mentality. Okay. And even though there's a true rule that keep your hands to yourselves, violence is never the answer, blah, blah, blah. In men world, it doesn't always work that way.
Got it.
And especially when you deal with this kind of situation. So a lot of fights I've gotten into was because of this. So now we flip with Charles in a similar situation of getting picked on. So we see Philip, the strong kid, punching his fighter and attackers and being strong. And even though getting thrown out the window, still gets a couple licks in.
Yeah, and then what I liked is what the headmaster said. He said, I expect people to argue without quarreling, to quarrel without suspecting, and to suspect without slander. He was training him to not react, but to think about your actions before you do them and be proactive. Yes, which I really liked, because it really molded him in a way.
It did. All these little lessons stuck with him. And then we see Charles, who, by the way, I saw, because of this episode, I had a more insight into Charles, because even as an adult, we as the world have always perceived Charles as a little bit of a wimpy person.
Right.
He's not, like, we look at Prince William as a strong person. We look at Prince Harry, by the way, who really reminds me of Philip.
Yes.
Right? And Prince William reminds me of Elizabeth. And then you see Charles, and Charles reminds me of the abdicated King Edward.
Interesting. But he didn't grow up with him.
But it's just all a cycle of personality.
Definitely. I could see that.
It's a cycle of personality, and I, in my opinion, at least as far as we can tell from the show. So we see Charles is having a much rougher time than I feel Philip did. Even though Philip had a very rough time, Philip's strong will allowed him to.
But also, Philip went into school with so much anger inside of him, because prior to this, he probably wasn't acting out as much, but then you throw him into this new environment, and all the issues that he had that were laying dormant finally came to a head. So again, they went into the school with a different situation, and that's why Philip was beating up kids and, having to defend himself.
Sure, but Philip also was never babied, and then when Charles and then everyone's kind of babying Charles except for the parents. So the servants all baby Charles. They hug him, they hold him. He gets home, he says hi. I mean, they really have an affinity to this kid, but they're babying him. Philip doesn't want him to be babied, to the point where he tells, when they're like, Your Highness, and they're like, no, his name's Charles. Yeah. He's Charles. He's Charles. Don't treat him special. And then later on, the kids mock him. It's like, okay, Your Highness. Like, they mock Charles, and Charles, the bed is getting rained on, and I mean, he's just having a very hard time.
Yeah.
But it's something where I can understand wanting that personality for your own son. I would want my son to be a leader rather than a follower. And I see certain circumstances where I see my brother and sisters, and sometimes they play these different roles. And I, even as an older brother, get upset at them.
Yeah.
And we're not even that far apart. I'm like, be stronger.
No, I think parents and siblings do that too. They want you to be tough so you don't have to go through what they did. But sometimes you have to understand times are different and personalities are different, and that's okay. Or there's just a different way you have to communicate what you want with them. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, if Philip had reasoned with Charles and it kind of given him more of a backstory and a frame of reference, I think Charles would have had a different reaction to the school. Not saying his experience would have been different, but it maybe would have made him understand why he had to be there.
Would he have had a different reaction to the competition that he could not? Like,
Poor
Charles was not
thing.
ready for the competition. He's not physically ready. He gets lost around the way. We don't really know what goes on.
Or did he just give up?
Either way, he didn't finish.
I feel like he was just like, my dad's already disappointed in me. I can't do this. These kids hate me. I'm just gonna stop.
And the dad and
I was rooting for you, Charles.
Philip
I really
adds
was.
more yeah, because secretly we thought he was gonna like come through.
I thought he was gonna like find another way out.
They were like, no,
because
he's with the map.
Yeah, the map made me think. I was like, ooh, he found a secret way. He's gonna finish first. I really hope.
And no, he doesn't even finish. And Philip added pressure by saying, I'm gonna be the one donating the cup this year, and I'm gonna be there to present it.
And the cup's named after him.
And it's.
But then when they did find Charles and the detective found him, and then the detective, like, he rested his head on the detective's shoulder, I was like, oh my gosh, poor thing. Like, I didn't know if I was like to feel bad for him because here he was being coddled again, and or feel bad for Philip because here it is, you can't even console your son in a time like this. Somebody else is doing it.
I was like, man up. And it's something maybe I need to change because I do have an idea of this, like, be tougher. But I would say the same thing to my sister, who are very tough girls. Like, they're just very tough.
But
very
you know,
tough.
my thing is, life
I don't know.
is hard.
It is.
But so if there's a situation you can control to make something a little bit easier, like your school, where you're gonna have to be there all the time, that shouldn't have to be as, you know, you shouldn't be enduring bullying, because you got studying to do. You know what I'm saying? You're already away from your family. Like, let's not make it harder than it has to be.
You've never been a boy. So then we go back to the James Philip fighting, and we see that the second time around when they get into a fight where Philip takes his revenge and actually like injures his hand or breaks it possibly on punching James to the ground, he gets punished and is no longer allowed to go home for the holiday that his sister and he had planned, because the sister was pregnant again. And you could tell Philip was a little jealous that she was pregnant, like, again. And she's like, yeah, I'm pregnant, come home for the holidays. He doesn't go. So instead, Cecil is flying to London for an occasion for a wedding. And has to take the flight, and the plane crashes. They couldn't land in Brussels.
And she had the baby on the plane.
She had the baby on the plane. And this is a plane with his uncle, which is her husband, and the children, everyone. Basically, that entire leg of the family. Which
the
some
sister,
would say...
the stepbrother, and all the nephews.
And that could have been just cosmic karma for being Nazis. I don't know, but it's just not fair. Well, I mean, it's true. You can only feel so bad for Nazis, but they were still human beings. Like, these are kids. This is a wife. This is, like, regardless, it's his family. And Philip may have ended up very different had this not occurred. He may have ended up in the Nazi party. We don't know.
Because, what was interesting to see was, although they were Nazis, this woman was a married woman, and they had festive occasions, and she was a mother who was excited, and she really, it's like she was following this belief system, this doctrine that she thought was really positive. She was like, hey, Hitler said we should have more kids, so I'm going to do that. I'm doing something good for our people.
And let's also remember that at this time, Nazism was very popular, not only just in Europe, but in the United States, where overwhelmingly Americans agreed with the Nazis, which is why it took us so long to enter World War II to begin with, and the attack of Pearl Harbor. And Japan happened to be an ally of the Nazi army. Let's not forget that, because people always just say, "Oh, we hated not." No,
it wasn't always.
It was something like 67% of the population. So it was just interesting that we need to remember these things. So we flip back to Philip just being in his feelings about this, being told by Dr. Hahn, obviously, that his sister had passed, and that was heartbreaking because you knew that was his lifeline.
Yeah.
And what happens is he decides to go out there and just build a wall on his own.
After running away and rowing for a little bit, he was working through his feelings, and he refused to ask for help for so long. But it showed me how some men communicate. They're not verbal communicators. They're communicating with their actions. And this is what he needed to do to get this out. Because who was he going to call to cry? He had no one's shoulder to cry on. He didn't have a dad. He didn't have a mom. He didn't have a sister available. Yeah.
In fact, the dad blamed him openly to his face.
Oh my gosh.
Which is just the saddest, most heartbreaking thing to see. And we see Philip working just diligently and vigilantly at this wall, just angry, putting this heavy wall. Clearly it's a tough, and then has to come inside and ask for help.
So before that happened, when the father blamed Philip, and Uncle Dickie was there again and consoled Philip and said, listen, one day you'll be a parent and you'll hope that your children will forgive you. So it was interesting seeing Dickie there again. He helped the father, and now here he is helping the son. But why was Philip so resentful to him being so close to Charles then?
Because Philip didn't like being babied. He bottled everything in and became a strong man. And also, just in case we were wondering, Uncle Dickie, I looked it up. He's Lord Batamount, who's a relative of Philip. Because the way they said Uncle Dickie, I was like, where does he come to play?
Right.
But that's what it is. He's like, and he does play a part in Philip's upbringing, but he is the softer side of the family in this situation. So when we have Philip Billingswall, he comes in, he's already had a problem asking for help in the past, and Dr. Han says, we are your family, right? He comes in, he asks for help, he says, speak up, he asks for help again. How'd you think of that scene? Because I found it to be...
It was amazing to see someone...
Another rite of passage.
Yeah, and just someone so young learning that lesson, like you can't do things by yourself. You, at some point, are going to need help. And I think that's a lesson for many of us that, it's hard to ask for help because you have to put your pride aside. And
especially as a man.
And a woman, too, but...
See, I disagree with that. Because
I can speak for myself. I know even today I had a situation where had I asked for help sooner, I would have made things easier for me. But it's because I'm independent. I want to do things on my own and just learn. And I don't want people to think I'm lazy. You know what I'm saying?
I understand 100%.
So I avoid asking for help in certain situations.
But the independent woman thing to me has been something that's more modern. And the traditional man is the rock, don't cry, don't do this.
Yeah.
So we see something where independent women, especially in, I feel like the African American community, we like have strong women, but like, hey, open this jar. And if you're a guy and can't open the jar, you absolutely feel worthless.
See, I can't, I don't know, because
and that's
I
why.
grew up around women, and there was only my mom and I to do things, so I don't know. But in this show, the women in this show are also independent. We see women having not Elizabeth and not Margaret, but the women like the Prime Minister's wife. She was independent enough to go have a baby with another man and still keep that relationship going. And we see this another marriage where we see a woman having an affair with her husband and another man. So the women in this show also are very have different levels to them as well. And I think those actions are showing a sign of independence in a sense.
I hope so, but I think overall in that time the society wasn't like that at all. Mm-hmm. I think that's a change that we've seen and we have been embracing more and more now, which is why it's so much confrontation with that change to become these strong women. And it's not that women aren't strong or shouldn't be strong, it's just that men can't be weak even now. So while we have strong women and maybe women who are a little more needing help or whatever it is, we have men where it's like, you're not a man if you ask for help. If you ask for directions, you're not a man.
So we give more leniency to women than we do to men.
No, in that aspect, we definitely as a society are much harder on our women by far.
Yeah.
And it's something I think happens as we see with Elizabeth later on in episode 10.
Yeah,
but just to finish episode 9, we see that Charles fails at the competition, and we see the little epilogue where it says Charles hated Gordonson.
Stayed there for 5 more years.
Stayed there for 5 years, thought of it as a prison sentence in hell. And he sent his own children, William and Harry, of course, to Eton. And that became the change. So,
and that's because Elizabeth could not say anything. The way Philip screamed at her, she had no choice. It was like either our marriage. He gave her this ultimatum. Either it's me or
but it meant that much to him, especially, and I can understand with the emotional value that Gordonson played in his entire life.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I would want my child to, for example, play basketball or just do stuff similar to me, and I've never had that kind of experience happen to me.
But it taught me a lot about their marriage, and that's what I love about episode 10.
Episode 10, Mystery Man.
Yeah.
The title comes from the mystery man in the photo. We see this photo, and there's a guy, and it's a photo with this girl who's a prostitute and Russian spy stuff and possibly treason, but it also relates much, much more as we find out in the episode. We start off in April 1962. Philip gets up in the morning, works out, very Philip.
Yeah.
Cricks his neck, tries to fix himself, hurts it even more.
Cool.
Goes to this osteopath, like a chiropractor, I guess, the precursors.
Yeah.
Stephen Ward.
Stephen Ward, party guy, connector, and
that's what he says in that first before the episode actually starts. He's like, "See that girl? It's a pretty girl." Philip's like looking at it, and he's like, "Oh, I can introduce you. I love connecting people, and I have these house parties." Boom. We fast forward a year. We see Philip. Jumping ahead, we see the room where they're questioning Christine Keller.
You're right.
Christine Keeler, the girl
Christine.
From the picture.
Yeah.
And they're basically, who's this? She's like, no comment, but we know it's shady business going on. And it turns out it's because it's possibly like a prostitution ring, and there could have been secrets passed from one high-ranking English government official to
it's like
high-ranking Russian.
It was like Boys Club Part 2, like, the club that Philip and Mike had back in the day. This is like round 2 almost.
Well, but it's also, we're afraid that if they're giving each other, if she's passing along secrets.
Right.
And Stephen
the
Ward's
Boys Club, but at a different
the one who
level
hooks
now.
it up.
Yeah.
The one who hooks it up. And we also see Prime Minister Harold Macmillan meeting with John Profumo, and this is called the Profumo Affair. It's actually, that's who it's named after. And it was a big scandal in the British government. John Profumo and being connected to this Christine and possibly trading information, which we later find out, at least for public knowledge, didn't ever happen. Like, it happened, the actions happened, but the trading of information, which was the big deal, didn't happen.
Okay.
Macmillan discusses it with his wife.
Who was not helpful at all.
Not only not helpful, she basically like stabbed him again, like, you're a trusting, stupid fool, you idiot.
Yeah,
you trust people. I lied to you for years.
Exactly. I went to this play with my boo, and everyone was laughing at you, and I thought it was funny, and you should see it. What?
She's a horrible person. Like,
Very
honestly, she's
the worst.
The worst. Like, I mean, I understand she's not happy, but sheesh.
Like, why even stay just to torment this man and pour salt in his wounds even more?
Way more. Like, yo, she's so bad. And then he does actually go and torture himself and sees this play.
Where they make fun of him.
And they make fun
so
of him.
bad.
And his face is just, and but he should be up to date with what's going on, but this is too much. British humor can sometimes be very stabbing. And I think that is directly what leads to his resignation, which he tries to resign twice.
Right.
The first time he tries to resign,
Elizabeth was like, no, I'm pregnant again, and I need you to do your job.
And then the second time, he's like, I have a tumor. And she's like, it's benign.
Yeah. She says, what did she say?
About the men?
Yeah, she said, I've dealt with a confederacy of elected quitters.
Yeah, she says they've all been either too old, too ill, or too weak.
Yeah. So, but Elizabeth is still standing, 3 prime ministers, and she's still here.
She's still there, and she's and that's the strong woman you were talking about.
Yeah.
Because we see a lot of Elizabeth in this episode, the strength, the growth. We've seen that over season 2, the growth of Elizabeth, and
we also see, she didn't know. She felt like she didn't know her husband. She didn't know where he was going. He was traveling. He tries to tell her, "Hey, you can trust me. I am here for you. I understand that this is the job."
No, but that comes out after. In the beginning, she's like, "You're the manager." He's always going.
Right.
He's gone.
I'm just doing a recap. Yeah.
No, he's gone. He's playing this part. It's shady.
And the
picture.
Yeah, the fact that she kept the picture of the ballerina, I was like, that is a wife move right there, to keep the picture. Yes, she says I can turn a blind eye, but she's holding. She's forgiving.
That's a whole conversation.
But she's not forgetting.
But we have to bring up how he leaves to Europe and he goes to Switzerland, and she thinks he's coming, and
he went to St. Moritz, and she went to Balmoral to take a break to ease the pain of seeing her husband and not knowing what he's doing, as well as to make sure she didn't lose this baby number 4.
And because she's ordered that she has too little iron, she needs to go. She wants to relax. She doesn't want to deal with what's going on right now. And he's going. She's excited for half a second that maybe he's coming with her, and she's not.
Right.
And he's not.
And did you hear him acknowledge baby number 4 at any point until the end when he's standing there and she's giving birth? I didn't hear him say, like, here it is, he's traveling. I don't see him touch her stomach. I don't see him acknowledge, like, that he knew. I was like, did he not know she was pregnant?
I don't know. We also didn't see him pee, and I'm sure he peed at some point. So I don't know if that, I think it was just to move the storyline forward. I hope he acknowledged having a baby. He seems happy every time they do have a kid.
But you know who's not happy is Margaret and Tony at this point, where Margaret's like, come on, and Tony's like, I'm coming.
And he's like, fuck. Like,
he's laying on the floor drinking, and he's like, hey, use me as an excuse next time you want to go out of town. That's why I was like, oh, okay, I thought they were going to be friendly.
And we see that they're falling apart. At least at that point, we see like the beginnings of the end for them. Because we do know that they eventually do get divorced. And we see that the scandal of the picture blows up because the rumor is, as Margaret loves to point out, that the picture of the mystery man in the photo looks like Philip's square body and big ears.
Did you think it was Philip? I kind of think it was him.
I don't think it was him.
No? Okay.
And I don't think it was. Well, I want to talk about that at the part where we have to make these decisions, right? So... because that's actually great. That's a great question. So I don't think it was him, whatever. We do know that the sketches that Steve Ward drew up in his notebooks was of Philip.
Yeah.
And we don't know why. We never get to know why. And they go to great lengths to get them all back.
Yeah.
And Stephen Ward, who is prosecuted very publicly and humiliated, and they just throw the book at him, he kills himself.
He's like, I'm not doing this.
He takes cyanide. He's like, I'm out. And so we're left with a bunch of questions that we don't have answers to. And we see Philip, and the prime minister resigns.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, at the advice of Macmillan, puts a family friend, what's his name, Green?
I didn't get his name, yeah.
I have it down. He appoints him as prime minister and says, and the public hates it.
And Margaret comes to check on her because she's like, my sister's pregnant. People are protesting outside. Your husband's gone.
Sir Alec Douglas Home.
Okay.
Elects him.
Holmes, the homie.
Yeah, not the choice, not the people's choice.
And also like a quick decision. It's just like because one guy's going out, they have to put somebody
else. He's also another person in the Conservative Party, and they know him. They're familiar. He's a little younger, but not that much. And the people hate it, and they elect someone else.
But it's like she had to appoint someone without really getting to a feel for them in that role.
You know what? The press is so up and down with her. And that scene where Philip was coming in and the paparazzi was surrounding him, it actually eerily reminded me of the Diana thing with the paparazzi and what happened, because they're just swarming him and they're up and down. They love him, they hate him. They love him, they hate him.
The paparazzi were a whole different character in the show because we see them playing good and bad roles.
So we finally go to Scotland. Philip goes to Scotland because Margaret's at the castle. It's like, oh, I was here to console her. She's not here.
Right.
Philip goes to Scotland, and he knows he's in trouble. Yeah. But he tries to throw it off at first, and he turns on his little charm. Elizabeth wants nothing to do with this. Like, I want to be alone. Philip's like, I'll be in the main house if you want me.
Right.
And then they both become stubborn and don't see each other the whole night. Finally, Philip comes. He's the one who swallows his pride, goes up, talks to Elizabeth, and it
was the best conversation.
Is it? It's also the best of times, worst of times.
No, like, I loved it because I thought she was going to hold her tongue, hold back, and be passive aggressive again. And she said, she brought up facts. She was like, facts. Here's a picture of the ballerina.
Steve Ward, fact.
Exactly.
That looks like you. Fact. He drew pictures of you. Fact.
Exactly.
Oh, and then he had all these answers. Steve
like,
Ward, who?
Yeah, he made me so mad when he said that. I was like, boy, you know who Steve Ward is.
Maybe. I mean, I can understand. It was years ago. I
didn't
went
know
there a couple
what to
times.
believe.
I believed. Philip had an answer except for the photograph. When the photograph came, he didn't address it. He went straight to the I love you, the speech, something I didn't expect from Philip. He became this touching, loving husband, and directly and frankly said, I love you.
And he finally bowed down to her.
He bowed to her.
She also bowed down to him.
You bowed.
And that shot right there was amazing. He said, you are my job.
Say it.
The essence of my duty.
Get it, Philip.
Beautiful.
He killed it.
The war within their marriage, I think, ended there.
I hope so. We don't know till season 3, which we can't find out until next year. Elizabeth even tries to say, I can look the other way, you know?
Right.
And Philip says, you've made that into an art form, but I'm telling you, you can look at me. I want you to look at me like, don't look the other way, look at me. And they profess love for each other. And from then on, there's at least, now we have an agreement Now we have an understanding. And now I've always thought this, that Philip truly is in love with Elizabeth and vice versa. And we see that moment. They don't kiss. They just put their heads on each other. And it's like, that is a true bond. And we see it.
They laid on each other like Philip laid the bricks at the school.
Oh, that's a great reflection.
Thank you.
So let's go through a quick series of questions, right?
Yeah.
Do you think Philip messed up?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think...
when you say messed up, cheated?
Whatever you want to take it.
Philip, yes, he has stepped out on the marriage.
You're the worst person. Who hurt you, okay? Did you believe Philip at the end?
A part of me felt like Philip was lying.
Did you believe him when he professed his love?
I did believe that he does love her in his own crazy way, yes.
Do you believe it was him in the picture?
Yes, I believe it was Philip in the picture.
I didn't think, I'm hoping it's not Philip in the picture. I'm hoping it was all alleged things. And I did believe Philip. Whatever he said, it made me believe him. It made me believe him. And obviously Elizabeth gives birth to her fourth child.
Yeah, and it marks the sign of a new period in their marriage.
And it showed with the baptism, because it was almost like a renewed vows, and the words that we're saying were them as well.
Renewing their vows to each other.
To one another. And we end with the scene full of chaos where they are taking a photo with the baby, of course, and the whole family. And everyone, and Elizabeth's fraught but still calm and just
holding the new
baby.
baby.
Like, this happening?
Margaret's chatting.
Crazy. Everyone's crazy.
Yeah, everyone's crazy.
Everyone's looking a different way.
Exactly.
That photographer guy was like, and we're in the wind and the life.
And Philip's just like, okay, everybody.
And Philip yells. He doesn't just say, okay. He's like, stop it now. And everyone stops.
And they take that photo.
And Philip takes, and you know what was interesting is Elizabeth slightly smiles and grabs Philip's hand.
Oh,
that was very important. She kind of, like, when he did that, she smiled just enough and then grabbed his hand. And we end with the words, this England. This England. And it's like, that's what this chaos and this control, and that's the royal family. And that is season 2 in a nutshell.
Yes.
This bookend. And I was myself sad when it was over. I really enjoyed season 2.
And we're all lovers of the show, and we all have different perspectives, but we really do love the show at its core. Please continue to watch, catch up on all previous episodes, and catch us next year, hopefully, when we're back for
We will be
Crown
back
season
for the Crown
3.
season 3.
Please let us know what you felt in the comments. You can catch me on social media at Tsahai, Sayhitshai.
And of course, I am Tehran, literally at I am Tehran. Send all your hate comments to I am Tehran. Follow me on Instagram, social media, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is. And make sure to comment below all your thoughts, ideas, anything you want to talk about. Say hi is very
I try to respond as long as it's nice. No need to be mean and crazy.
I love the mean and crazy.
I
Just
love
be
your
you.
passion. I love the passion.
And that's what we appreciate you. Season 2 by far, to me, was superior to season 1.
It's great being back with you.
Well, it's always fun.
See you next season, guys.
We'll
Bye.
see you. Maybe I'll be wearing a crown by then.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
actually see your two guys. Sorry, not
Two? Okay. we gotta get an extra chair up here.
Second cousin is same grandparent. Or no, same great grandparent.
Great grandparent, second cousin?
Yeah, because like first cousin is your parents' siblings, so your grandparents are siblings,
That's
and then your second cousin.
So Nick's my second cousin. And Dominic is. Virgin buddy.
It was a good episode to have him in.
Yeah.
Guys, this is the one and only.
I'm Megan.
Megan, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Zach. Zach, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, brother, how you doing? Nice to
What's
meet
your about? Chilling? Doing good. You going to New York?
Moving.
Yeah.
End of the month.
What do you got going on there?
Nothing, man. Just
gotta get
I got married, by the way.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Huh?
That's a real thing.
I know.
That's
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
That was quick.
Yeah, very quick.
Yeah.
Literally 4 months ago, but we were together since January of last year. Yeah. Just finally go experience.
The New York acting scene?
Yeah, man.
I would show you one something, but because your stock is going
No
down.
expectations, you know, just kind of throwing it out there and.
You're gonna be on Mr. Robot. God, they're casting everyone that looks like you. My boy Rami.
Rami, I know Rami.
Yeah, Rami's killing it.
Oh, yeah,
He's
yeah.
doing stuff.
I'll go check with tech.
And he sold a show.
Are you kidding me?
He sold some show about his family to NBC.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, yo.
Just as a producer?
So
he's gonna
I
be
think
in
he's
it?
gonna be in it.
Oh, wow.
He's the principal and writer and basically Carmichael Show Rami style, you know?
Amazing. Good for him, man.
So it's like, yeah, he's his.
Good for him. Yeah, he's good movie, man. Good for him. He's got his film coming out too.
Exactly. He's just, yeah, it's like chipping away.
Yeah, good for him, man. How you been? What's good with you?
It's like grind, Hollywood grind.
That's all
You
it
know
is,
how it
man.
is, yeah.
Oh, man.
You know what it is. You of all people, you know what it is. Where we were, where we are.
Yeah, that's for
That's
sure.
crazy. We make a living doing this.
Yeah, I know, man.
Yeah, like it's a grind. But see, I just signed the NBC development deal on Monday, so that kicks in January.
For hosting.
I mean, for
Your own
talent.
show.
So yeah, so the concept is what they do. It's worked for some people, and some people nothing has to. So
Yeah.
very, I mean, it has. So basically, they get first right. They try to put me into shows and allow me to develop my own show, which I've already pitched 2 shows to them.
Amazing.
Should have brought a Christmas sweater. Except the only one I have is a Freddy Krueger one.
That would've been cool.
It's literally just Freddy Krueger's sweater.
It would've been cool.
Change the title of it, man. I think it might just be AXL, but it's
See.
production company's Lakeshore Entertainment. It's gonna be distributed. And then Open Roads is distributing.
You were just in a movie that popped up.
Burn Country.
Burn Country.
Yeah, with James and Melissa.
Yeah. How'd
And
that
Rachel.
go?
And both of them are Golden Globe nominees right
Yeah,
now.
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, amazing, dude.
Yeah.
Have you seen that show, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel?
No.
Yeah, she's Mrs. Maisel. She's unbelievable. She's incredible. And James is, always doing great things, man. They're really good people. And then Melissa had her show, I'm Dying Up Here.
I'm Dying Up Here.
Yeah.
Is it Dying Up on Showtime?
On show. Yeah. Showtime or HBO.
Yeah, it's the comedy movie.
Yeah,
Andy
yeah.
Santino, Eric Griffin, all of them. Yeah.
Did you see that?
No, but they're all my friends. So I know
Okay.
everything about it.
Yeah, I'm curious. I want to see it.
I mean, it got renewed for a second season.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Jim Carrey executive produces it, so
Yeah.
it already got picked up. So now they're starting season 2. Either they've already started or they are starting it also in January.
Yeah. Yes, that's great, buddy.
That's the thing.
I'm so excited. Look at this, man. I didn't think I'd see that.
Which one?
35. May vs. Sonara.
Oh my gosh, that was so much fun.
Yeah, this was the perfect episode to have you on. You chewed so much stage and it was awesome.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
This is crazy. So tell me about this, man.
So this is the thing. AfterBuzz is very popular after shows.
Yeah.
So everyone tunes in. It was the #1 iTunes for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's like a big fan.
Oh, amazing.
I mean,
I think we were pulling at one. I don't know what the numbers are right now, but last time I saw them, it was like 100,000 a week. Downloads.
Yeah, incredible, man.
so it's like people
people
love this.
listening.
They pay attention. They like get on us if we say something wrong. It's
So
like,
I'm put on my Instagram in the midst of this.
yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you have a Twitter handle?
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, they put it up while you're
Yeah,
talking.
they'll throw a lower third
You're
in.
gonna be on this couch, so you're gonna get comfortable here. We're gonna talk, then throw you in,
Amazing.
and you're gonna be part of the discussion while we talk.
Amazing.
And
Dude,
we'll ask
I
people.
don't know what I think my at Dom Reigns, I think is my
Yeah,
Twitter.
you're the worst. You're the worst.
I am. You're absolutely right. 'Cause I never used Twitter.
What?
Should I?
It's dying now.
Yeah, but we'll basically just have a discussion about the episode
What's your Instagram?
and like the themes that are explored, that kind of thing.
I thought it was
Yeah.
Dominic.
And then you're more than welcome to chip in whenever you want to. and
Yeah,
then-
you don't have to wait for a question. If you've got a comment or a funny behind the scenes moment, or if you're just like, man, that fight was cool.
And then at the
Or like, wow, these guys are so wrong.
yeah,
Twitter's at Dominic Reigns too.
and then at the
Reigns as well.
we'll have like a short interview at the end where we'll just chat
We'll talk,
with you.
Yeah, we'll talk about like
Yeah.
upcoming projects that you're allowed to talk about, things like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, promotes you.
And then what's my Instagram?
Dom Reigns.
At Dom Reigns?
Yeah, your Instagram is Dom Reigns.
We need to look up this psychic guys in, because I'm looking on IMDb and I can't find him.
Yeah, his character doesn't have a name yet.
The guy from Who Wants to Come on the Show?
No, the psychic inhuman.
Yeah.
We never got a name for him.
Oh, Maiko, M-A-Y-K-O, I think.
Maiko?
Miko, I think it is. Miko,
Miko.
Olive.
That looks like him.
Okay, well, we have the sauce
Olivier.
here.
Yeah,
Boom.
great guy, lovely guy.
Let's see.
Does this character have a name yet on the show?
I don't know if they've said it, but I think they put it out in press releases.
Maybe they
Ben.
Yeah.
His name is Ben in the show.
show, Ben?
Yep.
That's
I don't know if it's trade secrets. I don't know what to push.
I don't know what
your
It's
Instagram.
like Jeff.
Dom Reigns.
Yeah. What a
Dom Reigns.
what an inhuman name.
R-A-
Medusa, Black Bolt, Gorgon, and Ben.
Triton.
Quake.
Send
Ghost Rider.
send out a team of Triton and Ben.
Well, that's like my favorite one from the New Humans
Yeah.
line was Frank.
Yeah, Frank's good.
I think that's right. I think.
Cool. I'll hand it to.
Yeah, this was a really great episode for Cassius. Like he had some really like that whole interrogation,
The interrogation
scene was awesome.
scene is
Yeah, that was
amazing.
fun, yeah. Oh man, I'm curious to see what you guys say the rest of the stuff. Should be in that
Look,
scene.
before I even knew it was you, I was a Cassius fan. And I was like, hold on. No, this can't- they were there. We were watching.
You should have seen his face. He like starts leaning in towards the
like,
TV.
no.
He's like,
I was like,
I
hold
think I
on.
know that dude.
Hold on, let me. This can't be. No, this can't be.
He's like, that's my
This is
second
family.
cousin.
Hold on, this can't be my family. He's on TV. No, he was just in a movie. This can't be him again.
He was playing an Afghani journalist.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, no, and I was like, hold on, you do these serious movies, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and you love indies. That's like, so I was like, hold on, this. I've been trying to get you to sell out for a long
Zach,
time.
do you still have the Twitter handle?
I gave it to the booth.
Ah, okay.
I think it's at Dominic Reigns. You
It
said,
is
right?
Dominic Reigns' Twitter handle, and Dom Reigns is Instagram.
Okay, cool.
100%.
Great.
Yeah, so they do this after show, and like it's popular, and they do this for a lot of shows. But the Marvel stuff is, it's huge. So.
Is your Instagram the one that has a cat as the
No.
icon?
That's the Twitter.
Okay, yeah, that's for Twitter.
For Twitter.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
Cool cat.
The cool cat.
he's the worst on social media.
This is true.
That's okay. My Twitter handle's
He's
not
actually
my name.
he's a serious actor, like a serious. We went into this for different reasons. He actually has an art. He cares. He likes it. I just wanted girls and money. He wanted to care and like he's like a creator. You're creative. Like he studied this stuff. You studied this.
Also, there's a puppy.
Also, there's a dog.
That's Rocky.
Hold on. Hey, he's evil on the show. You just jumped up. That was.
Oh, hi. Your mama's in a show. Oh, is Neil on the show too?
Yeah. I know Neil. I actually don't know if Alexis is here. Who's your girl,
Megan, are you tweeting it out?
Yeah.
Keep
I'm
the
just
dog during the
tagging
show.
everybody.
Yeah. Tag everyone.
Tag everyone. Jess Klein 1. Me, AfterBuzz. ABTV AfterBuzz. Or Marvel AfterBuzz.
Would be a
Zach,
total hero if I could
Tehran,
get Phil Coulson
Jesse.
on the show. How much? Like,
I mean, that'd be really cool. I actually was almost his assistant for season 1.
why?
I mean, some show I interviewed. I was like,
For who?
Clark Gregg.
Okay.
Like, this is gotta be, what, 5 years ago now?
He directed me in the next, not the 5th episode, the 6th.
Oh, cool.
He directed it. Poppin'.
Super nice guy.
Yeah, he is. Lovely guy.
That was an interesting interview. It was like the most Hollywood assistant interview because like in a coffee shop in the middle of Brentwood.
With him?
Nothing
Yeah.
cliche about that.
And what did he say? He was just like, what do you...
He's a nice guy. We talked about Comic-Con a bunch.
And then he didn't hire you.
And he did
So
not.
whatever you did was
He went
not...
with somebody he had worked with before, which makes sense.
Bye.
Did he at least
Bye,
tell
Rocky.
you? What's our ETA?
I'm just gonna be ready until Anthony's ready, so I'll start you right now.
All
His,
right.
Thank
you.
his people got back to me.
His people got back to you?
Thank you for the
So how many
reminder.
episodes are you on this season?
Oh, I don't know. That might give it up.
I mean, there's enough seasons.
I mean, we could probably.
Oh, yeah, that's
we
true.
could look on IMDb.
I'm not gonna ask.
Find it on IMDb.
You
Oh,
won't-
really?
They won't post it yet. I don't want.
that's tight.
I'm not gonna bring it up on the show. But it's a bunch. It's a بین ماست. میخوام بدم خوب پول ساختی. 8 تا. آره. خب خوب شد. 8 تا خیلیه.
So it's pronounced Dominic Reigns, right?
Beast version.
Excellent.
All right, that's good. That's great.
It's perfect.
It's perfect.
It's just enough.
It's perfect. آره. It's
Yeah.
perfect. به خاطر اینکه اونم بعداً پول هی میاد. It's like nice. It's a good.
Valley,
آره.
it's just in terms of the character.
Yeah, of course, the arc.
Yeah, it was.
If any more than that, and it would
You'd
have
be
been
done.
too much.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good idea too.
Yeah.
And it gives you. I feel like you have to get something off this.
We need
Hey.
to kill it.
No,
I
I'm talking
have
about
no
like
Good, how you
expectations.
you need to
doing?
be a freaking killer on Law and Order. You know what I'm saying?
I'm down.
Uh-huh.
Especially you're in New York. SVU.
Just the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. theme is fine.
Agents of Field.
Agents of Field Sheem, please.
Yep. Nailed
Agents of
it.
Agents of Mrs. Field.
Please.
Because New
I
York,
would
they
watch
cast
that show.
exclusively right there.
Oh yeah,
You
but
need
they
to-
got everything there too. They got
Yeah, of course.
Daredevil, Punisher.
Yo,
I'd love to be on one of those.
yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Punisher got renewed.
And I mean,
Yeah.
you're in makeup, so it's not like people
Yeah.
will be like,
Yeah,
hey,
you
that's
can't
the
not-
same guy.
I could see you on Punisher easy. And you have the action
That would be dope.
ability.
Oh, there'll be some of that coming too.
Yeah, that'd be popping. Popping.
I've got to be very careful what I say.
Yeah, be careful.
Yeah. We're not gonna press
Hey,
you or
we're talking
anything
about
like
stuff and things and things and stuff. And yeah, don't
that. I mean,
worry.
Tehran might.
We're not
don't
going to push
answer.
for spoilers.
I'm pushing. for
Hello,
I'm gonna get
yes,
sued
I'm
by
Jesse
Marvel,
Klein.
Disney, and ABC.
Yeah.
This is me speaking.
And now Fox, they bought it.
Now Fox.
Sure. Hello, this is Jesse Klein. I'm talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Everyone on this panel is a nerd. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
I just paid for an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. sweater, so I think I earned that title.
I'm here with these lovely folks. A nerd myself, indeed.
Whenever you are set, my lady. Thank you.
Hey. Okay.
I don't even know what that is, bro.